The coming together of the Road Dogg Jesse James and badass Billy Gunn was more out of necessity than anything else. Both men had been working in the WWF for years prior to their tag team formation, and both men had difficulties breaking out as big stars in the World Wrestling Federation. Billy Gunn had been a tag champion in the Smoking Guns tag team, while Jesse James had been associated with Intercontinental Champion Jeff Jarrett. When both men tried to break out as single stars in 1996 and 97, things had gotten arguably worse for both Jesse James and Billy Gunn. Fortunately, when the two men came together, they were able to leave a long-lasting impression on wrestling fans, becoming one of the Attitude Era's premier tag teams. This video takes a look at how the Road Dogg Jesse James and badass Billy Gunn came together to form the new Age Outlaws. Jesse James first stepped foot in a WWF ring back in August of 1994, having a dark match against Barry Hardy that is actually available to watch on the WWE Network. Billed as Brian Armstrong, the Road Dogg was successful in this match, but he wasn't offered a contract straight away. He went back to his former employer, WCW, for a few months before getting invited back to the World Wrestling Federation in April of 1995. He would then be put with Jeff Jarrett pretty much instantly, acting as Jeff's Roadie, as Jeff was doing the whole country singer gimmick at the time, hence the name Roadie, which would evolve into the Road Dogg. While on TV we wouldn't see the Roadie get into the ring too often to begin with, he did work quite a few house shows and dark matches, but ultimately both Jeff and the Road Dogg walked out of the WWF after the In Your House 2 pay-per-view. Jesse James then found work in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the USWA before making his eventual return to the WWF. Jeff Jarrett had sang the With My Baby Tonight song while he was in the WWF, and to turn Road Dogg babyface, it was explained that Jeff Jarrett was actually a fraud. It wasn't he who sang With My Baby Tonight, but it was actually the Roadie who lent his voice to the song. Now, if you think this is an effective way to create a new babyface in the World Wrestling Federation during late 1996, then you're out of your mind, but this is what happened. And somebody felt this was the best way to create this new babyface character in Jesse James. In saying this, the whole With My Baby Tonight angle was to set up a feud between Jarrett and the Roadie while both men were still employed with the World Wrestling Federation, hence the footage of the Roadie singing the song during the In Your House 2 rehearsals. And the WWF must have felt that the angle would be strong enough to carry the Roadie upon his WWF return. It wasn't. Now named the real Double J Jesse James, seeing as Jeff Jarrett was now the fake Double J and all that, Jesse James would come to the ring singing With My Baby Tonight before matches, and it was as bad as you could imagine. Wrestling fans did not care who really sang the song. They didn't want to cheer for a country singing babyface. There was nothing for the WWF to market here in terms of merchandise. It was just a real bad idea, but at least it got the Roadie back on WWF screens. Someone else who was having his own creative issues at the exact same time was Billy Gunn, and boy, he was near enough suffering from the exact same problems. Billy Gunn had joined the WWF in 1993, teaming up with his kayfabe brother Bart Gunn to form the Smoking Guns tag team. The Smoking Guns were these throwback cowboy characters, coming to the ring with cowboy hats and wearing denim, and to be fair, they done pretty alright for themselves, winning the WWF Tag Team Championships 3 times. The team, however, had gotten a little stale in 1996, and the decision was made to break up the Smoking Guns and see how both men fared in singles competition, starting off with obviously feuding with each other. Billy Gunn competed in the WrestleMania 13 free-for-all show, defeating Flash Funk here while also catching the attention of the Honky Tonk Man. The Honky Tonk Man in storyline was looking for a protégé to take under his wing, promising us that this new protégé would be the next big thing in wrestling. Disco Inferno from WCW was supposed to be the original protégé. He even had his silhouette placed in a WWF magazine to tease his arrival, but Disco ended up re-signing with WCW and therefore the WWF were forced to change plans. I mentioned in my WCW Cruiserweights video that I was a fan of Disco Inferno in WCW, and while it would have been fascinating to see how the WWF booked him, I find it hard to imagine him getting a good run in the World Wrestling Federation. Starting his New York career off as Honky Tonk Man's protege may have been an early nail in the coffin, but anyway, Disco wouldn't be coming to the WWF, and so the floundering Billy Gunn was selected as the protege. Billy would get renamed, Rockabilly was born, and he was revealed as the protege at In Your House Revenge of the Taker 1 month after WrestleMania 13. Keep in mind that Billy Gunn had punched Honky Tonk Man just a few weeks prior. Further proof here that the WWF was forced to change direction as the Revenge of the Taker show was approaching. Before Rockabilly was unleashed to wrestling fans across the world, Honky Tonk tried to enlist Jesse James as his protege, resulting in Jesse smashing Honky Tonk Man's guitar in the middle of the ring. This meant that Jesse James would be facing the surprise protege at Revenge of the Taker, and yeah, when Rockabilly walked out to take on Jesse James, the reaction was very, very flat. Had this been Disco Inferno versus Jesse James, it would have been a cool moment to look back on, but instead, the unveiling of Rockabilly has become more comedic than anything else. Fair dues to Billy Gunn though, he came out dancing, trying to get into the character that really wasn't him at all, and he went along with it all to try and move up the ladder, but even Billy himself must have known that this wasn't it, Chief. This gimmick was pretty much dead on arrival. You can see the problem then. Both Jesse James and Billy Gunn were stuck with poor gimmicks here in the middle of 1997, a time when things were beginning to shift in the land of wrestling. Gimmicks like this weren't going to go far. People wanted more gritty and somewhat realistic characters instead of singers or 50s inspired rock and roll gimmicks. I know that's hypocritical when I just said that Disco Inferno would have been interesting in the WWF during 1997, but the difference with Disco Inferno was how much he actually got into the gimmick, how he made it work in WCW, how he was actually amusing to watch. With Jesse James and Billy Gunn, you could just tell these guys wanted nothing to do with the gimmicks bestowed upon them. What makes this worse, and this is something I'm sure many of you may be surprised about, even those who watched the WWF during this time period, but after the Revenge of the Taker pay-per-view, Jesse James and Rockabilly kept their gimmicks for a further 6 months. 6 whole months. In the back of my mind, I thought it was maybe 2 months tops. I didn't think it was that long. Jesse James said, "When I was the real Double J, I was trying to be a babyface. I was singing that song on the way to the ring, and it wasn't the real me. Backstage, I knew I was more quick-witted, and I knew I could make people laugh. So I thought, what if I could try and do that out there with an audience? Vince Russo gave me the chance to do that. Billy was Rockabilly, and I was the real Double J. We were working each other in the first match every night, and we were just frustrated creatively. We kept going to Russo, we kept hammering on his door, and even though we didn't have any ideas, we did know that we were frustrated. Russo said, 'Well, what if I put you guys together?' So it was Vince Russo's idea to put the new Age Outlaws together, and this came straight from the Road Dogg's mouth. You're free to check out his Legends with JBL show on the WWE Network for the direct quote. This contradicts what Bruce Pritchard said on his podcast, as Bruce said it was a Shawn Michaels idea. I'd lean more on what Road Dogg said here, simply because it came straight from the horse's mouth. Now, I know the instant reaction is to say that Vince Russo takes credit for everything, so you might be surprised to hear that Russo himself does not take credit for the Outlaws, instead saying it was a Vince McMahon idea. So Road Dogg says it was Russo, Russo says it was Vince, and Bruce Pritchard says it was Shawn Michaels. Who knows, but let's move on. The formation of the Outlaws then would happen on Shotgun Saturday Night, of all places. October 11th, 1997, Rockabilly is scheduled to take on Flash Funk. Towards the end of the match, Honky Tonk Man accidentally trips up Rockabilly, costing him the match. Jesse James then comes to the ring wearing some new threads and saying his name is now Road Dogg, a throwback to his old Roadie name when he ran with Jeff Jarrett. The Road Dogg said in the middle of the ring, "Me and you have a lot in common. We have been curtain jerkers from day one, and don't say we haven't. We have been left flat on our backs, 1, 2, 3, looking at the lights. That's what we've been doing." Do you like it? Do you like working on Shotgun every week? Do you like looking at the lights? Let me answer that for you. No, you don't. I took one loser to the Intercontinental Championship, and my friend, you are not a loser. So me and you together, I smell money. A great promo here. It's a shame it went down on Shotgun Saturday night and it isn't talked about all that often. Road Dogg was basically admitting to the world that both he and Billy Gunn were lower tier WWF superstars, but together they could maybe become more. Give Russo credit for this one. A little realism goes a long way, especially when your gimmick has been that of a country singer or a 50s rock and roll enthusiast. Rockabilly hit Honky Tonk with his guitar before leaving the ring with the Road Dogg. Jim Ross asked on commentary if this could be the forming of a brand new tag team, and the new Age Outlaws had just been formed. We would have to wait until the October 20th edition of Raw to see Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg on the WWF's flagship TV show. The Road Dogg's promo coming to the ring here is a very early version of his usual shtick, so it's really fun to go back and see this work in progress. Of note, Road Dogg ends his promo by saying, "If you didn't know, you better page somebody."
And if you didn't know that, then you better page somebody.
Road Dogg explained later that he and Brian Lee, maybe better known as the Fake Undertaker or Chains of the DOA, used to say backstage, "You better page somebody," back then when pagers were all the rage. As the weeks went on, the saying went from "you better page somebody" to "your ass better call somebody." Road Dogg's promo here evolving along with technology, it seems, as pagers became obsolete. Again, check it out for yourself. October 20th, 1997 episode of Raw. And if you didn't know, you better page somebody. Ernie Ladd also used to say "your ass better call somebody," so maybe that was the inspiration. Anyway, the Outlaws still didn't have a proper tag team name as they defeated the Headbangers on their debut Raw match, but this was already leagues better than what both men had been doing in the past, adding a little bit of comedy to their match and also wrestling a much more aggressive heel style. The match ended with Billy Gunn smashing a boombox over Thrasher's head. Road Dogg also had some choice words for the commentary team after the match.
You're a freak! You're a freak!
Yeah, you're not though. Hey, why don't you go take...
The next week on Raw, Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg were scheduled to take on the New Blackjacks. Road Dogg secured the pinfall win after Billy Gunn assisted with a chair shot, and these kind of tactics would become a regular occurrence in tag matches that involved Gunn and James. It even became a regular occurrence in matches that they interfered in. This helped get the men over as heels in the WWF, and again, it was much better than what they had been doing. November of 1997 though would be a huge month for the team, thanks to their feud with the Legion of Doom, which seriously elevated James and Gunn to the next level. Before the Legion of Doom angle properly kicked off, the Outlaws worked their very first pay-per-view as a team, Survivor Series 1997, and the Outlaws were the survivors for their traditional Survivor Series team here. Anyway, after stealing the Road Warriors shoulder pads, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn managed to get themselves a tag title shot on the November 24th episode of Raw against the Legion of Doom, and after some underhanded tactics, Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg won the titles, running away to their parked car after the match while holding the gold like a pair of bank robbers, as Jim Ross put it. The very next week, these pair of bank robbers came out to the ring with their new tag team name, the New Age Outlaws. So coming from being Jeff Jarrett's roadie and a happy-go-lucky country singer, and coming from being a smoking gun in Rockabilly, badass Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg had become the tag team champions. Gunn had held the tag team titles previously, but this was the Road Dogg's first ever taste of championship gold within the WWF. A perfect example here of letting guys be themselves and allowing them to try and make their own way in wrestling instead of lumbering them with silly gimmicks. There have been other tag teams throughout the years that were thrown together because they had nothing better to do, and the results weren't always great, but for whatever reason, the New Age Outlaws worked incredibly well. I think a lot of it definitely came down to the Road Dogg's ability to run his mouth during entrances, but to be fair also, Billy Gunn, in my opinion, was the better wrestler of the two. On paper, before pairing the men up, the idea of having Jesse James and Billy Gunn paired up as a tag team maybe had lower mid-card written all over it, but they proved a lot of people wrong because they were given a chance to do so. Anyway, the feud with the Legion of Doom continued, which soon led to the New Age Outlaws sharing the ring with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, better known as DX at this time. The Outlaws and DX led a beating into the Road Warriors on Raw, an interesting segment when you think of how Shawn and Hunter probably wouldn't have cared all that much about sharing a ring with Jesse James and Billy Gunn just a few months prior. DX endorsed the Outlaws here, both in a kayfabe sense and in a real life sense. Getting that rub from DX on TV went a long way in legitimising Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. Once the Legion of Doom feud ended, the Outlaws' next big feud was with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, and who could forget the segment when the Outlaws pushed a dumpster containing Jack and Charlie off the side of the entranceway on Raw. This stunt also helped get the Outlaws over, and when it looked like the Outlaws were showing some remorse for their actions backstage, Shawn Michaels and Triple H again endorsed the tag team when they said that's what they need to do to become superstars. Billy Gunn believes that it was this dumpster incident that put the New Age Outlaws on the map. He credits this night as the making of the Outlaws. This all led to a dumpster match at WrestleMania 14, which was very entertaining. What is a dumpster match? Well, think of a casket match. Replace the casket with a dumpster and you have a dumpster match. With the Outlaws taking on Cactus Jack and Terry Funk here though, you best believe this would turn into a street fight, and that's exactly what happened. A good match here that saw the New Age Outlaws lose their tag team titles, but this didn't mean the push had stopped. Far from it actually. In many ways, this was just the beginning for the Road Dogg and badass Billy Gunn, as the very next night on Raw, Triple H formed the new DX Army, and the New Age Outlaws became members of D-Generation X, the WWF's hottest and most controversial faction. By joining DX, the Outlaws would get much more TV time, many more match opportunities, better merchandise checks, and a greater overall standing in the WWE's history books. So that will do it for this video. I guess the lesson that comes out of this story is that wrestling promoters should not be afraid to let people be themselves and give people a chance. As soon as the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn joined forces, they became way more relevant almost overnight, whereas before they were stuck in a pretty woeful position on the WWF cards. Fans who still watch wrestling today know all too well that the WWE, and other companies to be fair, have some severely underutilized guys who are hungry and eager for an opportunity. Give them a chance, there's nothing to lose after all. The New Age Outlaws would go on to become one of the WWF's most recognizable tag teams during the Attitude Era, and it was all thanks to the men getting an opportunity. There's no reason why their success couldn't be mirrored in today's wrestling landscape.